I really think motor vehicle users have a tough time of it. They're not popular with other users of rights of way. They don't have a lot of access. The routes that they are able to use in the countryside are becoming more and more restricted. And I think it's really important to help them protect what they have.
It's so common that councils are under recording rights, that rights are taken away without real cause. We'll make sure that everything is done with due process, that users have a voice, that the corner of users is fought. I'm Sam Dodgson and I'm one of the Rights of Way officers for the Green Lane Association. Weirdly, for someone working in Rights of Way, I'm based in London, where there's none at all, because I spend most of my time in the library, looking at old maps, looking at historic resources. But when I do get out on the lanes, I spend a lot of time photographing, measuring, looking at gate posts, making sure that we have a detailed record of each of the lanes that we're challenging, and making sure that we know what the council is claiming is true. There's such powerful evidence in all of these cases, in gate posts and in hedges and how they've been trimmed and in the land itself. And we spend a lot of time measuring and documenting that. We look after the Green Lane network and make sure that the status of routes is correct. So there's often legal changes to upgrade or downgrade routes. We're looking after those routes and making sure that we keep the records up to date. We come into contact with 4 different acts of law, one from 1949, one from 1981, all the way up to 2000, 2006. None of them work especially well with each other. They are contradictory in many ways. We're kind of second guessing what Parliament meant in a lot of cases. It's a nightmare, and that's why associations like the Green Lane Association are vital, because we need somebody to stick up and make that case. It's good to have a group of people fighting your corner. Once a highway, always a highway, but the councils have a whole series of bits of law in their arsenal to stop certain types of people from using a route. So they'll most often make a traffic regulation order, and that can be used to stop vehicles over a certain width. That can be used to stop vehicles with 4 wheels instead of 2 wheels. It can be used to stop anyone who's not a pedestrian. It can be used to stop anyone who's a carriage driver. They can use it in any way they want, and we spend a huge amount of time fighting those. Quite often we find that they're not correctly made, or that they haven't considered all the evidence. They've taken one person's account of a lane that's being abused, and it's actually not true. We find that they don't have the evidence to back up these claims. So we spend a huge amount of time, again, just checking their homework, making sure that what they do is legal and is fair. A lot of the time we're arguing over things that we shouldn't be arguing about, that are clear in law, but some people will push to take them to court anyway, just because they can and they don't like the decision they've got. It's really frustrating to be spending this much money, but it is important. It's absolutely worth the money, because this is a legacy which continues forever. Rights of way last forever, and if we make mistakes now, it's not always possible to correct them in the future. We have to ensure that due process is followed. So we work with a great team of barristers who will often attend court and present our case for us.
The rights of way law is really complicated. A lot of it is based on really ancient case law, because it is all about how people were travelling around the country hundreds of years ago. My name is Esther Drabkin-Reiter. I'm a barrister. I've been practising for about 6 years from a chambers called Francis Taylor Building in Inner Temple. My practice is mostly planning and environmental law, and a big part of that is rights of way work. I am dealing with things every day that I can point to on the ground and say, this is a project I've helped local people with. It's a really rewarding area of law. What was a fairly extensive network is being gradually reduced, and in that circumstance it's really important to protect it, because there are lots of people who really enjoy using these routes, and that ability is being restricted for motor vehicle users quite heavily by councils, and often not in a very fair way. There really needs to be balance between different users, especially given how small these number of routes are that motor vehicle users can actually use. Other groups who are a bit more tribalistic or perhaps more forthright in their view, they are really just out to prevent motor vehicle users from using any rights of way in the countryside. And I think the attitude of we just want this user group gone completely is a really sad one, when you really want to be encouraging as much access to green space for everybody, for all the reasons, mental well-being, physical well-being, that it brings. I would say there's essentially 3 types of case that I've worked on for the Green Lane Association. The main ones are traffic regulation orders, and I'm really pleased to say that in all of the cases that we've worked on together, we have been successful in getting the council to withdraw the traffic regulation order without even getting into court. It's been enough just to issue those legal proceedings. The second type of case is about the duty to maintain rights of way, and that's on a highway authority. And there have been a number of cases where councils haven't maintained roads to the standard required for motor vehicle use. So they haven't said can't have motor vehicles on these routes, but they just haven't kept them in repair. Usually it's a drainage issue, particularly where the road is not tarmacked. They've let it get into ruin, and then they say, well, we can't afford to repair it. But there's a very clear duty to repair. And then the third type of case is about something called the definitive map and statement, which is a complete record of all public rights of way in a council area: footpaths, bridleways, restricted byways, and byways open to all traffic. You'll be looking at old maps. There'll be users who will talk about the ways in which they've used this right of way in the past. Ultimately, the inspector will take into account all the evidence and make a decision on whether that right of way should exist on the definitive map and statement or not. It's obviously a really good feeling to win, and I think I'm just very happy for the client. Particularly, I know that Glass really cares about these cases and puts a huge amount of effort in, drafts a lot of witness statements, really thinks about the kind of arguments to be made. So it's very satisfying. The work is really important, partly because for the same reasons as why access to the countryside is important, because without a group like Glass, without groups like the Open Spaces Society, the Ramblers, British Horse Society, the Auto Cycle Union, other amenity groups, these rights of way won't necessarily be protected for future generations. But also, people are recognising, I think, again, this mental well-being side of access to the countryside and how important it is to be able to get out and see green and get away from, endless houses. So I think, given those tensions, it's really important to protect the routes. I've been really grateful to Glass, actually, for giving me the opportunity to get into this area of law, because it's absolutely fascinating and it's so important for the people who want to use the countryside in different ways. I really think motor vehicle users have a tough time of it. The routes that they are able to use in the countryside are becoming more and more restricted, and I think it's really important to help them protect what they have.
The fact is, if user groups like the Green Lane Association, if we in the legal team weren't there, we'd be losing rights of way left, right and centre. Councils would have free rein to do what they wanted, and they'd be at the whim of people complaining at the smallest thing. There would be no one to fight for the rights of users across the country on the Green Lane network.